I'm Mehrnaz Campbell, founder and CEO of Kimia and Kimia Reset. And thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Digital Transformation. My purpose is to unleash the human potential to create a healthier world. And my vision is to inspire far more commercial, marketing and medical leaders to shift from just like delivering three messages to healthcare professionals to become their trusted advisors. And my goal is to really unlock the power of genuine connection. I'm really passionate to help pharma professionals feel confident about using digital channels and content to the way in a way that they feel they can recreate the same chemistry that they have face to face on online. And to kind of explore this topic, I've been inviting inspiring pharma leaders to join us on this LinkedIn Live to share their experience. And I've been interviewing them so we can benefit from their insights and give them a platform so they can share their expertise with us. So I'm really delighted to welcome Christian Wöckel, head of RSV franchise vaccine from Germany and Austria at Sanofi. Hi, Christian. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm well, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Brilliant. It's so good to have you here. So let me tell you a little bit about Christian. He's responsible for the digital marketing and commercialization activities. Prior to taking this position, Christian was leading the go-to-market transformation for GenMed in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria since 2021. And he has expertise in digital transformation, including AI and analytics and agile, which he gained in commercial and non-commercial functions. I guess, Christian, you joined Sanofi in 2017, and since then you've been driving the transformation roadmap and establishing a global center of excellence for intelligent automation and process mining. And before joining Sanofi, is that right? Yeah?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And before joining Sanofi, I was working as a consultant and advising clients on financial topics, all the topics CFOs had. That's correct.
Fantastic. And I think your background in finance, post-merger integration and, CFO strategy, it kind of like sets you in a good stead to bring that expertise into pharma. So I think that kind of is a real feather in your hat. And just to let you know, Christian studied both in Germany and USA. He's got an MBA and he's got further expertise in digital transformation through executive education program he did in Stanford, IMD, and NCAD. I mean, basically, when I was reading your bio, Christian, I thought you are some smart cookie, very clever guy. And what I was really excited was you've got this passion for digital transformation, but you also have this strong drive for results and impact. And I'm not surprised that you're progressing so fast in your career. So congratulations for the new position you just recently secured.
Thank you very much. No, it's really a pleasure to be here. And as you were saying, there is so many interesting things in pharma. We're progressing to in the end help the patients, but also how we engage with HCPs. And I'm very happy to discuss today on how we can better augment our own colleagues in marketing, sales, but also in other areas to deliver better outcomes overall.
Fantastic. So as I said, it's so great to have you here. But before we kind of like dive in to start talking, I just wanted to say that Christian here is representing his own views, not his company. So that kind of allows you to speak freely your mind about your views on this. But also, I was going to say, usually when I introduce our speakers, I like to say how we met. So I was kind of like looking back down memory lane to see how we met. And I think we first connected on LinkedIn. I don't know exactly when we connected on LinkedIn, but do you remember?
Maybe I can. Yeah, maybe I can remember because it was when I was reading your book on the Omni Advantage, and I was actually going through one of a very nice chapter, which reminded me of a lot of learnings I had in digital transformation, and I was like, okay, I really have to connect, and I really have to actually give you some recognition on sharing this and making this piece of art available because it's really helpful along the way. And I recall it was mid last year
Mhm.
when I was reading the book. So and again, it's a great piece. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. I think it was March this year because we launched the book in January. And I remember looking back on my LinkedIn messages, you messaged me in March, and it was really like inspiring to hear that what I had written resonated with your experience of, transformation in Gen Med for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. So I guess I was really like excited because last week we almost met in person when we were both in the same city, but unfortunately our schedules didn't allow us to meet. So I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. But I guess what it shows, Christian, is this is the power of digital transformation. I made so many really wonderful connections with people that I feel so like I understand them and they understand me, but we've never met, which means we could recreate that with our customers as well and patients. The digital tools really give us much more opportunity to connect human to human, doesn't it?
No, absolutely. I think there is big potential out there, and we all know we live in a world of technological growth. I think we're all familiar with Moore's law, which is the explanation of exponential growth of technology, and it shows that things which have not been seemed to be possible in the past are now possible. So I remember that before the pandemic, it was not actually believable that we would do Zoom meetings and we work remote across the globe, across countries, and we get work done through different time zones in such an easy way. And now it's possible. I think this is one of the good practical examples which echo on what you have been just saying. But there is one key element, and I think this is around the human factor and the people, because um, staying very simple, I think digital transformation is there is a piece around technology, but there is a big and even a bigger piece which is around making it human centric and augmenting the user or the customer who should benefit of the technology itself.
Definitely. I'm one of the long-standing users of Zoom because I moved to US and I started working remotely from US in 2017. And I remember at the time I was contacting healthcare professionals, say, "Oh, can we meet in Zoom?" They were saying, "What is Zoom?" I said, "Oh, don't worry, I'll send you the link." And now, I mean, it's just everybody that I talk to are so familiar with Teams. It's just a new way of working, and they're running virtual clinics with their patients. A lot of healthcare professionals don't even go to the hospitals anymore. They work from their home or remote offices. I just want to acknowledge you've got your friend here joining us, Martina. Hi, Martina. Thank you for joining us, and I hope the weather in Vienna is good. And hi, Caro. It's so good to have you here. Hello from Edinburgh to Maastricht. And Aida, it's good that you joined us as well. And Aida's in Valencia. So yeah, cool. I was going to say this is a live session. The whole point of having a live session is we want to have interaction with our audience. So as I said, I've got a bunch of questions lined up for Christian, but I really want you to write your questions in the chat, and I'll bring them and we can, pepper them into the conversation. Also, as Christian talks and makes comments, if you like what he says, give it a thumbs up. If you've got comment to add or add to the conversation, please feel free to share your insight, because that's what's going to make this whole LinkedIn Live richer, allows us to connect with you and you connect with us. How does that sound? Does that sound okay, Christian?
Absolutely. I think we can only learn by sharing experiences together, and I think that's the overall objective of why we have those kind of sessions, right?
Definitely. And last week I was at a conference and it was great to have the upfront sessions, but I find a lot of the learnings happens when having a huddle over a coffee, and the discussion you have during coffee breaks or lunch break that actually allows people to expose. So please comment and contribute to this discussion. So let me kick off by just a couple of questions about your own career path. Can you tell me a little bit about your career path and why did you choose to, you know, explore pharma as an option? Because, finance and pharma are quite different, but tell me about it, please.
I think you summarized it already at the start. So maybe very briefly, after working in consulting, I joined pharma in 2017, having been in the business services organization, then scaling process automation, process mining, and then moving more towards the commercial side, where we were transforming our go-to-market model, and now being in the vaccines field, which is also very interesting. And to answer your question, why pharma? So first of all, in my family, at when I was quite young, there was always a lot of healthcare professionals in my close family. So there were always topics around health and pharma on the table. And when I started my career, I had a lot of interactions with pharma companies, and this is how it somehow emerged. And since then, I really enjoy the passion to help patients in getting the treatments they need, but also in preventing even certain diseases. So I think that's a great passion which motivates also on a day-to-day basis.
That's fantastic. I think at the end of the day, we all want to help people. And whether we're working as a healthcare professional or in communication, unless we have an opportunity to communicate that with healthcare professionals, patients won't benefit from the novel treatments that we have. And in fact, last week I was talking to a couple of doctors who attended the conference, and I said to them, "What do you expect from us in pharma?" And he said two things. We want you to bring novel medicines and bring them to market, but that's not enough. You need to make sure patients have an opportunity to receive that, and by that we have to communicate it eloquently and effectively to those who prescribe or provide services so patients have access. Otherwise, the patients won't have the benefit of that. So I think it's so inspiring that we have a really important role to make sure those reaches patients. Here we've got a comment from Shelley. She's commenting about there's a piece around winning hearts and minds as to the reason to engage with digital transformation. I totally agree with you, Shelley. Even last week, one of the doctors said um, to build trust, they need to have that human connection. And that sometimes is done through face to face. But because digital channels provide that agility and speed, we realize we can actually recreate them through digital channels as well. And I think we need to be comfortable with either channels to be able to flex and provide HCPs with a channel they prefer. What do you think, Christian?
No, I think in the end, we need to start, holistically on digital transformation, we need to start from the user or the
Hmm.
customer, because there is a job to be done, right? And we should not boil the ocean with technology. So there should be a clear use case or purpose. And if we speak about different ways of engaging, and if this is matching the right preferences, then I think this is the way to go. But it might depend on the customer profile. It might depend on if we speak about internal, let's say, using technology to help an accountant to do their work easier, on how they actually do the work, and where technology can make their life easier and give them time back that they can focus on value adding tasks. So I think it's really something we need to start from the job to be done, from the end user and from the customer, and then reroute it backwards and how and where technology can help, and then make a compelling story out of that, because in the end people needs to be understood, and they need to be on board on why technology is going to help them. Otherwise you will have a horse who should drink but is actually not drinking, which was one of the nice chapters in your book.
Yeah.
And there is a big piece around motivation and change. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. There has to be underlying reason and problem that we're trying to solve. And I'm a big believer that we shouldn't chuck everything at our customers and hope something would stick. I think we should actually be really deliberate about what we're saying and the channel that they opt in for. So less is more sometimes. So less of what I'm thinking. Let's talk about you. Before we dive in about your professional passion, which is digital transformation, what are your passions outside work, Christian?
So I will make it quick. First is traveling the world, see as much as I can, because this is really, when I'm old, I think I will be um, really glad that I've seen many different countries, cultures, and spots. Yeah, during my time, and then I'm passionate around sports. So I do a lot of workout, running, cycling, and then lastly, there should also be time with valuable time with friends and family, and that would be my, let's say, three passions, complementary to what you just have been saying.
Brilliant. What's your top destination on your bucket list?
South Africa. So I've never been to South Africa.
Ooh.
So I have been to many places yet, but South Africa is really one of the next items really on top on the bucket list. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I've not been there. I've got a huge bucket list. Every time I tick, something else
Yeah.
gets added in. So, Christian, let's dive into your passion at work. What are some of the biggest challenges you face in the change management needed to drive digital transformation, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I think that's it's also very linked to the last comment I've seen by Carolina from Maastricht. Exactly. So I think it's there are many challenges, right? So there are many things which can go wrong, and it always depends on, whether you work as a consultant and you're working in a certain industry, or whether I mean you have a culture which is more European or Asian, so it might also have an impact on the challenges you face. But the learnings I've had, and challenges I was facing over the last years, are, I mean, there are many, and the ones I picked for today are a few that there's always something with the buy-in and also with the leadership, and this is what I've seen mostly is that when you deploy or when you do large transformation programs, typically you're rushing too quickly, and leaders might not buy into the vision and the ambition. So, and the less you involve leaders right from the start, or the more you, for example, tell them what they should do, and you don't turn it into participants, the higher is the risk that once you translate, for example, projects or initiatives to the broader level, then it gets diluted. And for example, the employees or the broader organization will recognize that they're not buying into it, or they just don't believe in it. And one of the solutions here is that it takes time. It depends also on the context and on the magnitude, but involve leaders from the start and let them co-build part of the story and the vision. So that would be one of the challenges, and also how it could be tackled.
Mhm.
Then another problem or another challenge, and we've talked about it, I think, is around the job to be done, and what is the purpose of deploying technology. So I think in the past, technology has been deployed broadly, but the user requirements have been gathered at a very late stage of the development process. So it means that we just deploy technology, and then in the end, realizing when we were doing user acceptance testing, that we deployed a tool which is not fit for purpose, and where the user said, "Well, I don't want to use that," or the customer said, "Okay, what is with my experience?" So this is why it's important to have the end user or the customers being on board right from the start, and using, if you call them front runners or champions, then in the development, and then also having them being the promoters when it comes to change, and reinforcing the importance of using this kind of solutions, which will help you to drive adoption on the long run. So those would be two challenges. And there is, if I mean, I have another one, and maybe the last one is that comes into my mind, is a compelling story. So it's a comparing story and being not too technical. So we tend to be too focused on, and I think it's very human to our technical language, and don't make the metaphors or the compelling visions, which is then very hard for someone to understand who never heard about it. And then we're wondering, okay, why don't people really buy into it, and why there are so many questions open? So That might be another one. And easy ways how to overcome that is to use metaphors or make it use illustrations and create compelling stories, and by that engaging the people. Yeah.
Brilliant. So 3 challenges: leadership, kind of like the digital, make sure that it's got user acceptance, but also compelling stories. So how did you overcome these 3 barriers? Do you have any stories you can tell us?
Yeah, I think there are many stories and many answers to that. So, I mean, working in different projects in consulting, or I mean, in other areas, um, I think it always depends on the context. So when we speak about leaders or leadership alignment, so typically what needs to be done is to spend time in the room, right, and to really discuss on what is everyone understanding as a goal, and what is the ambition everyone has, and to ensure that we get the right level of alignment. So how quickly do we want to move from A to B, and does everyone understand what are the implications? And I think this is the time that has to be invested. So and don't rush into it too quickly, because then we might lose some time, or we might lose some important buy-in that we have to cover up at the end. So that would be on the leader piece. Then on the user acceptance and having the customer or the end user who should benefit from technology, for example, being onboarded right from the start, so that you, for example, develop a dashboard or an AI platform with an end user who might have not been ever being in this kind of technical development scrum cycles, but it might be useful for him because he then actually sees what is going to be developed and he can give feedback. And then he might be the one promoter who is later on telling all the others and convincing the others how this can help in their day-to-day job. And last but not least, on the storytelling, I think it's a lot around trying and learning, and you might also get a coach, right, who helps you to how to create a narrative, how to use a nice metaphor to for example, describe digital transformation in a very easy way and make it really human-centric. So yeah.
Yeah, I think what you say really resonated with our experience when we were helping a client to shift their whole field force across the global organization to embrace technology. They had the buy-in from the leadership, so the leaders created the space that it was okay to, you know, play and fail and try until you get your arms around it. But also in terms of user experience, we paid a lot of attention to make sure the user journey was a enjoyable user journey for them. It wasn't clunky. So we considered their preferences. So I think that actually, if the users are buying it and they know what's in it for them, they're more likely to invest their energy and their hearts and mind into it. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. So how do you ensure there's collaboration across different teams? Because one of the biggest hinders to progress is internal silos. I think silos are like cancer. They just stop, you know, sharing progress, and also, you know, it's this like blame culture. Oh, they didn't do this. But what did you do in terms of ensuring that collaboration across marketing, sales, and commercial and public affairs, or any other department in your digital transformation effort? And what helped you overcome the barriers?
So if I would have to summarize, it would be around structure, alignment, and transparency. So it sounds very cloudy now, but I will shed some light into the dark. So with structure, I mean creating the right kind of, for example, program governance or plan or roadmap, alignment meetings, or even metrics, which ensure that we all know how we engage, how we collaborate with each other, and we have the same, let's say, rhythm on how we operate towards one goal. Because this might be in an agile structure, this might be in a, let's say, more in a waterfall approach, but it's very clear that, or very important that we have a clear ways of how we work and how we collaborate to each other. And this has to be complemented with the right level of alignment. And with alignment, I mean that we're all clear on what is our goal, how do we measure our goal, and how are we going to achieve this goal by each department or contributor as part of the team. So and this might look different. So when we speak about a technology program, then of course you will have certain data, let's say, packages to be done. Then you will have someone working on the change management. You will have someone working on, for example, creating the connect between the strategy and the technology. And this needs to be crystal clear from a transparency perspective, because what you typically see is the higher the level of disruption, or the more advanced programs are, and the higher the expectations, it needs to be very clear who's working on what. So, and this, what I've seen is that the more transparent you are, the more trust you give into the teams, the better the structure is, the higher the alignment and the higher the transparency, the better are the chances you will meet your objectives and your ambition in time and in quality. And if you're missing one of those pieces, there's always a risk that you, for example, you are in a chaos mode because you don't have the structure. People work on different things because they're not aligned, or we work on the right structure. We have the right structure, we have the right alignment, but we do work very inefficient because we're not transparent within the team. So it's like a magic triangle.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. We've got a couple of really good questions from the audience. So Martina says, Christian, which technologies or trend do you see as driving forces for the next phase of digital transformation in pharma? I guess, Martina, you're moving really fast. I don't think we've done this phase right. So you're moving to the next, but I'm just curious to know what you think, Christian.
Yeah, I think that this is industry agnostic. So the technological advancement is exponential, and we will see many new technologies coming up over the next years. So we have been seeing that, during the pandemic, that all the trends have been accelerating. And then we have, for example, the hype with Gen AI, and there are a lot of, let's say, interesting play fields also for pharma. So for example, how generative AI is going to re-innovate or reinvent how we create content, and also from a conversational perspective, that we put a new chapter on how conversational AI is going to look like, and how large language models can actually help you in or medical writing and some other pieces. So I think there will be a big piece around that, that AI is going to augment more and more in our day-to-day job, irrespective of the industry we speak about. So it can be the same in automotive and telecom, for example. And I think the pace is going to grow exponentially. What is, I think, very important is that how do you then translate that into implementation, and how do you make it ready to be augmentable, so that we use this technology to actually integrate it into our day-to-day work. And there was a nice saying of Bill Gates, who said recently that the advance of technology is to make it fit in, that people even noticing it. So that we as, for example, leader in digital transformation, we find the right technology trends, that we augment our people, whether this is in R&D, whether this is in commercial, that they take the most out of that. And I think there are many more trends which are going to come. So whether it's around also identifying the right molecules to shorten the cycle time in R&D processes. So I could speak about this for minutes, but I think there's a lot of potential we can expect now.
I heard a lot of examples of use cases in medical or R&D, but I was just curious, do you have any use cases of it for commercial?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I recently visited a conference. I think it will, I will not mention the provider, but there was some nice use cases, for example, on training and enablement. So with Gen AI and AI models being more sophisticated, you can really think about new ways how we actually also train, let's say, field force or other colleagues because the computational power behind the machine learning, but also the way you can use AI is a completely different dimension, because we knew that how, for example, chatbots used to be in the past, and we also know what large language models can do today. And this creates almost realistic examples, and you could train real life cases in a way better and on demand approach. So this could be in commercial, and then I was speaking also on the content creation process. So, for example, that the way we generate content can be done quicker, faster, but also modular, with having, let's say, AI integrating the feedback from customers, integrating the data we see on where do we engage customers more, and then looping this back into our analytics platform, which is then making the right recommendations. How should we combine actually certain assets, even on a let's say wording perspective, what is actually really resonating with what customers currently need.
Do you use AI yourself?
You mean day-to-day work? Yes, of course.
Yeah.
So I use it a lot. So I as an example, I mean, I think in any kind of applications, you have recommender systems who help you in making the right buying choices. So I will not mention the ones, but I think you know what I'm referring to. And I think there are nice AI programs which can help you in being, I mean, have more time to focus on value-adding tasks. So there are nice large language models which help you in having quick translations ready. There are also, I mean, we also know the GPT for I mean, what we know as ChatGPT or Copilot. I mean, there are a lot of Gen AI applications out there which can help you in, for example, crafting workshop concepts, or helping you in even writing emails in a more standardized or nice way, I think. But it depends also on the user, right? I mean, everyone has its own use cases on how he wants to be augmented with AI.
I mean, I find it quite fascinating because the large language model actually help us reduce mundane tasks. But what I find quite fascinating is they actually give us feedback. Like I use an application that, when I have meetings, so it saves me taking meeting notes or actions. But when I go to the application, it actually gives me feedback on the level of engagement between the conversations I've had. And also with ChatGPT 4, sometimes when I ask a question, I just feel as if it's like having a conversation with someone else because I've got advanced voice. And you can actually get feedback on the way you communicate, but also they can give you feedback. It's like almost talking to someone else and get advice from them. It's like having a coach. I find that element of it for me is quite exciting. I don't know.
This is what I was also referring to in terms of use cases on Gen AI in training, for example, in training and development, because I saw some nice examples on when I was attending a couple of conferences. I think it was beginning of this year, where they even piloted some of those how Gen AI could help in training your departments and doing this kind of feedback loops you were just referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Christian, one of the things I really love about technology and AI is actually encourages us as humans to think differently. So before we were thinking, oh, what is it that I need to do? Now we're thinking, what is it that I can maybe delegate to AI to free my time so I can think? I don't know whether you agree with that or not, but I feel I'm thinking differently because of the availability of AI and digital tools that we have.
No, absolutely. I mean, so I think there is I mean, and it's very different from human to human on how you, for example, structure and organize your day-to-day work. But from my side, I agree with that, because I'm always asking myself the question on where can I, for example, use Microsoft Copilot, who can help me in searching for data and then composing this into an Excel file, and even asking Copilot to make certain inferences and tell me statistically on what are, for example, I don't know, certain insights I can get out of this Excel. And I could do it by myself, but Copilot can do it in seconds. So there are some boundaries for sure. So it depends on the, let's say, data richness, and also whether we speak about really large data sets. We can speak about let's say how to do a workshop. I think
Hmm.
there is some nice examples where uh, Copilot or ChatGPT gives you some really nice ideas on what you could do differently.
Hmm.
And I agree with you that having AI is a good way to nudge yourself on whether to think differently, or whether to approach certain tasks in a more efficient and more effective way.
Hmm. Brilliant. I was going to say we've got a really amazing audience because I'm looking at the questions that have already been covered, and I must have had like some telepathic connection with our audience because some of the questions I was going to ask you, our lovely audience have already asked. But in terms of analytics, maybe that's part of the AI. What kind of like how do you see the role of like AI and analytics play a role in kind of like your approach to digital transformation? Do you use it for that element, number crunching and whatnot?
Yeah. So I think technology, AI, and analytics, they are enablers, and they are part of the digital transformation strategy. So you need this. I mean, you need analytics, you need AI to, for example, um, better understand customer or user needs, because you might have some unsupervised learning algorithms who help you to make the right inferences from the data, to segment the data differently, and then feed it, for example, back um, to the marketeer or the salesperson, and give them some kind of recommendations. And the analytics are a crucial part. They also help you in better understanding how can you manage your end-to-end process better. So how can you, for example, optimize your hiring process, that it takes less time for applicants to receive the offer letter, or how can you, for example, optimize the process to get a more seamless experience for new hires, because AI is going to make this kind of recommendations and give you this kind of insights. But in the end, when you look um, into digital transformation overall, it's one piece of the puzzle and it's not everything. So it needs to be backed with, for example, the right technological strategy. So you need to have the right tech stack. Data needs to flow from A to B. So we need to have a data pipeline in place. You need to have a data governance. So very, let's say, robust components you need to consider. And then there is a big effort you need to have on the people. How do you actually bring those insights and recommendations to people? So how do you make them use it? So will you force them to use it, or will you rather try to co-create a nice roadmap and make the change stick and having them involved? So I see it as a big piece, very important piece, but it needs to complement it with some other components, which are, for example, change management and other pieces. Yeah.
So it's been amazing having you here. And if anybody has any more questions, please pop them in the chat. But I was just going to ask you a question is, advice would you give to other leaders in our pharma industry who are on their own digital transformation journeys?
So first of all, be bold and try new approaches, and have this kind of test and learn mentality, because um, you will see quickly what worked and what doesn't, and what works you need to scale. Um, and there is no secret sauce, right? I mean, you have different, let's say, circumstances. You have different company cultures. You have different even I mean, cultures in general. So depending on where you're based, you have different starting points. So this is why, um, yeah, you need to be flexible also in the way you adapt your roadmap. Um, Involve the people you have, because
Hmm.
there's so many smart people out there, and involve them in co-creating the journey, and in co-creating, for example, AI or a change story, because it would be a shame if you just let others do the work and then cascade it. And when it comes to creating the link between technology and business strategy. So I think here is important to identify the right use cases and
Hmm.
always start from the customer or the end users, because you don't want your AI write a check that your user interface cannot cash in, because it needs to go hand in hand. And this also reminds me on the last piece, which is around user centricity, because if you have great models, if you have great insights and great recommendations, but if the way you make it, let's say, accessible for someone is not user centric, they might not
Hmm.
use it, and they might not actually turn it into action.
I think one of the things that really stood out for me listening to you is everything you said from the beginning to this point, you're always thinking about the users. And I think the users are the humans. And you considering their preferences and their need to make sure they come on this journey. Because digital transformation without the users is just going to fall flat on its face. So I love how you put emphasis on the users and bringing them on this journey. That's
Spot
amazing.
on. I mean, you need to balance different aspects, right? And of course, sometimes you need to make certain decisions, but then the question is, how do you bring the critical mass of people on board? And there you need users, you need acceptance.
But in reality, a lot of leaders says, this is where we're going. We're going to go in this direction, and they sit back and expecting things to happen, or they invest in digital tools and buy the technology and they expect it like everybody's going to pick them and run with it. But humans don't like change. We like to keep doing what we're doing. So to make that change, you really need to engage the end users. First of all, they need to know what's in it for them. Also, they need to make it so simple and easy for them, so there's less friction for them to adopt this new way of working. Otherwise, there's going to be huge resistance. But most people, honestly, they just don't think about the users. Say, oh, we're their boss, we tell them they should go and do it. But that's not how people work, do they? Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is where I was also saying that digital transformation is less around the technology itself. It's more about how to um, make it fit for purpose, that we
Mhm.
augment people in doing their job, maybe differently or better, or we save them time.
Mhm.
But we need to think about the job to be done, or the end user, and what is the problem we solve for them.
Exactly. What is the problem is solved for them. And that brings me to, my book, The Omni Advantage. My book was all about the human element of digital transformation. And I just wanted to ask you, you read it. What was your favorite chapter that really resonated with you? And what's your feedback? Tell me, words
Yeah,
and all.
yeah. So I think overall, when I read the book, I mean, I read it, I think, in one day. So I was
Wow.
I really liked it, and I think it combines very nice perspectives. So you have so many great people, I mean, insights you put into that. So it's really nice, and it's also a little bit disruptive in the thinking, because there is still um, um, many biases which can be addressed by reading through this book, in changing the way we deploy tech, and we also make technology more human centric. Um, but to answer the question on what is the favorite chapter, my favorite chapter is called "Why Isn't the Horse Drinking?" And it's this nice metaphor. And I was saying it that I think, if I recall it correctly, if you don't I mean, if you don't set up the transformation program in the right way, it's like trying to bring a horse to a drinking spot and forcing the horse to drink the water, and then you're wondering, why is the horse not drinking the water? And when I go through the learnings you put there, I think, I mean, this is very much linked to what we have been saying. So develop the tools with the end users in mind, or empower the teams, give them trust. Don't dictate the change. I think this was one of the key elements, and impactful KPIs. So less is more. And then there was the last piece around transparent and honest communication to also address fears. So overall, I think this is um, very much linked also to my personal view, and also what I believe are the right components to be looked at when you drive meaningful change, which comes with new technologies.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your favorite chapter. If anybody else is listening here or read the book, I would love to hear your feedback. Share your feedback with me privately or publicly. And just let me know what was your favorite chapter. That is kind of like quite encouraging because at the end of the day, we're talking about omni-channel, multi-channel. And last week I heard another new term called opti-channel. But it's not about the channel, it's about having a meaningful engagement. And I think as an industry, if we do an effective communication and engagement, the impact is countless number of patients would have access to novel medicines that we create. And that's what it's all about. It's not about technology, it's not about digital or channels, it's about having a difference and making people's life healthier. And communication is our skill to be able to reach those people so they can make those difference. So I feel really passionate about it. I started my career as a nurse back in 1986. And I'm still like working in healthcare, but I think as a nurse I could maybe influence 28 patients in a ward. But in our job now, we can influence so many hundreds and thousands and millions of people if we get it right. And I think we've got a responsibility as an industry to do that job really well. Patients, need us. So yeah, I'm just getting all carried away and passionate. But Christian, I was going to ask you like a key question. You're very smart, and I'm really impressed with what you've done. You're very young, but I just wanted to kind of look fast forward and tell me, uh, if you were to leave a legacy in pharma, what would you want that to be?
So if I were have to leave a legacy, would be that with what I've been doing, I have helped people,
Hmm.
teams, organizations to really take the full advantage of digital and technology to enable them, but also healthcare professionals or even the system that patients get the medicines they need, or even they get the prevention of not, for example, getting sick.
Fantastic. So you and I are aligned again on this chapter as well. So fantastic. It's been amazing to have you here. And I'm sure our audience really enjoyed hearing your perspective. It's very refreshing. Thank you, Christian. And thank you
Thank
for
you
all
so
of
much.
you. Yeah, it's been amazing. And thank you for everybody who joined, wrote comments, asked questions. It's been great to have your insights in our conversation today with Christian.
And
So
thank you very
thank you.
much. And it was a pleasure. And I really, again, I think what you're doing is super important because it connects the dots, and that's also where I think everyone can benefit from. So thanks for the great job you're doing.
Thank you. That's very encouraging. I said, I really believe in the power within us to do something so much bigger than ourselves. And I think if we break down silos and focus on the human element and empower people, and invest in their development, we could really unleash the potential and create a healthier world. That's it from us. We see you in our next episode and look forward to your comments and remarks. Thank you.
Thank you.